Hi, this video is going to talk about all things jealousy. So why do we feel it? What is it trying to tell us? What are we misunderstanding about jealousy? I'm going to address jealousy that comes up in non-monogamy and polyamory, but it also applies to all relationship types. I am Roy Graff. I am a relationship therapist and a polyamory coach. So why is jealousy misunderstood? Jealousy is not one feeling, it's not one emotion. It is really an umbrella term for lots of different feelings that are about insecurities. And when we don't fully understand what is the specific emotion we have and we just call it jealousy, we are not really able to capitalize on that knowledge and learn how to be better at managing feelings, and we're not able to grow as people. I think that jealousy has often, in the common social understanding, been about, and we see that in books and movies, that jealousy seems to be an expression of love, of like deep desire and love. And, when you're feeling jealous, it just shows you how much you love a person. There's an element of truth in terms of like, if you care deeply, you may fear about losing someone. But when an expression of jealousy becomes about possessiveness, about control, about limiting the other person as a way or as a reaction to make yourself feel better, I think that then it is actually harmful and does a disservice, because it doesn't actually help the two of you get closer. It creates a gap. So when we think about jealousy, it's actually helpful to not use that word and instead talk to the specific emotion we're feeling. And there are different kinds of insecurities. So let's just put jealousy aside for a second and talk about fear, insecurity, and envy. Now, envy isn't jealousy. Envy is when you see somebody that has something and you want it too, right? So you would like to have what somebody else has. Jealousy is about being afraid that something will be taken away from you. So they're very different things. We often mix them up. If you want something, that can also be a positive. Somebody did something, maybe somebody, your partner went on a date with someone to a restaurant that you realized you really wanted to go to, and you feel some bad that you weren't there. Maybe a FOMO feeling. Okay, now you know, maybe you'll want to go with them to that restaurant or another one in the future. Whereas the jealousy that means you're afraid that something will be taken from you or that your partner would leave you, that really points to some kind of insecurity in a relationship. And you have a fear that your partner might leave you. And then the question is, why? Why do you have that fear? Is it because you're feeling you're not good enough? Is it because you are somehow thinking that the other person is better than you in some way, more successful, more good looking, whatever it is? If that is there, then it's helpful to then go deeper into, where does that insecurity come from? Why do you feel not good enough? Why do you think that somebody else might have something that you don't, right? That can be because of your own childhood experiences. It could be about not having enough validation from your parents or from your past relationships. But it can also be about some insecurity that lies in the foundation of this relationship. Maybe you are not getting enough validation. Maybe your partner doesn't tell you that you're good enough. Maybe they criticize you, right? So there could be some valid reasons, but if you don't sit and listen to what these feelings are trying to tell you, you might get those confused. Is it a valid reason, or is it something that your partner doesn't have any control over, but that you could deal with in therapy or through self-exploration? I've done a lot of thinking about a scarcity mindset versus abundant mindset. And what I see is that when you're in scarcity mindset, you're basically feeling like there is a zero-sum game. For you to win, somebody else has to lose. For them to win, you have to lose. That is scarcity. That is basically putting something like love and romantic feelings, equating it to a scarce resource that you have to accrue and hold on to and protect, so nobody else can take it from you. And that is at the heart of monogamy, right? Of like seeking to secure your partner through contractual obligations, marriage certificate, et cetera, and that is something that the institutions, the state does promote, does advocate for, and that can be through both incentives and punishments, right? Now, in that space, it's understandable that many people have a scarcity mindset. Also, we have a lot of other examples of scarce resources around us. But I think that when it comes to love is abundant. You can love multiple friends, you can love your parents and your siblings, and you can love multiple children. So love in itself is abundant, and there's plenty of examples of that all around. When it comes to romantic love, we somehow differentiate that. And the fact that there are polyamorous people who can love multiple people romantically at the same time is a proof enough that there is abundance of love also in that regard. Not everybody can feel it. And if you're monogamous, monoamorous, and that's how you love, that's great. That is totally fine. You might still come across scarcity mindset when it comes to your partner going away for a long trip. Your partner likes to spend a lot of times with their friends, and you might get envious of that. So I think that even in monogamy, it's good to think about it. Do you have a scarcity mindset, or can you move over to an abundant mindset that says, well, okay, my partner deserves to have their freedom, their connections, their friendships, their lovers if you're polyamorous, and so do I. And it doesn't take away from our connection. So the more that you can think about it more abundantly, the easier it is to then deal with things like jealousy, because you're also taking a much longer time frame view of saying, okay, well, we have all of our life together, we have years ahead, so the fact that they're out this evening doesn't really matter, right? But if I'm sitting at home feeling really insecure and lonely, and I rely so much on my partner, then that should be some kind of red flag about what am I doing to feel more abundant, to have more connections, to not rely emotionally just on one person. So the experience of jealousy, or the different emotions we talked about under the jealousy umbrella, often translate into physical feelings, into sensations in the body. When people feel this jealousy, often report that their skin gets hotter, they report their blood, kind of their heart pumping faster. They may also get, sometimes people talk about getting cold hands and feet. They feel a constriction in the chest or the throat. Some people might start shake when they get really upset. So all of those are somatic responses, and they come from the nervous system. So our nervous system is essentially experiencing a danger. And because we sometimes find it hard to rationalize or really explain why we're feeling that way, then the brain doesn't have a suitable logical explanation, which makes the body, the body's emergency response system, act as if there is real danger. And that's what we call calling the nervous system kind of responses. Now, when we are attached to someone, they become our safety, our security, our anchor. And we kind of use them in the same way that we have related to our parents growing up as our safety. So when somebody is in an insecure attachment, or is in a very anxious attachment, or avoidant attachment, or disorganized attachment, they basically did not get the security that they really needed growing up. And that can translate into being insecure in an attachment with your romantic partner as well as an adult. And that's when it's really important to recognize that that's what's happening, that it isn't your partner's responsibility to give you the kind of security that you would expect from a parent, and that there is an opportunity here to learn how to give yourself that security, to self-regulate, basically, to calm your nervous system, so you are able to then think straight and have a conversation about what's really going on. Where does this fears come from? What can be done about it? Maybe there are some things that your partner can do to help, but at the same time, remembering that it's not their role to regulate you because they're not your parent. So attachment theory looks at children and studies what the reactions are to different behavior by parents. And broadly speaking, it tracks four different types of attachment behavior. Well, one of them is secure attachment. And then there's a disorganized, anxious, and avoidant. And the differences when we come to adults translates into insecure connection with their partners, and sometimes also with friends and other people in their life. So somebody with an anxious attachment would often be the person who is chasing, who is afraid of losing, or then basically tries harder to hold on. So the underlying fear is similar in all of those insecure attachment models, but an anxious person might ask for validation a lot. We try to make sure that they have secured kind of time with their partner, that the partner isn't leaving them for very long. They will be very sensitive to whether they're getting enough attention or not. Whereas an avoidant person still has that underlying fear, but their strategy, their defense mechanism, is to just basically keep distance. If this person isn't going to give me the security that I need, then I'm just going to basically be by myself. I'll just take care of it myself. I don't need anyone. And that can become an avoidant pattern in a relationship, where maybe as soon as there is conflict, as soon as there's any kind of risk, the person just gets very distant, right? Just shuts down their feelings. And it's not that they don't care, it's that they care so much that they're just afraid to actually to engage. And this organized attachment kind of connection looks like, again, oscillating. And sometimes it could be, again, it's to do with how you were raised and what your experiences were growing up. But as an adult, it can straight into sometimes being very avoidant and very kind of distant, and sometimes being quite intense. Now, what's interesting in polyamorous dynamics is what we observe, that For some people, they can be secure with one partner and anxious or avoidant with another partner, depending on how that partner triggers some memories or experiences from childhood, or maybe depending on that partner's attachment pattern, right? So you can feel very secure with your anchor or nesting partner, but become quite anxious about a new person you've just met, maybe somebody who has other partners. And again, that can be explained by something that's very established and safe, maybe many years of being together. So maybe you've already worked on a lot of these attachment issues versus a brand new person who's very exciting, but also a little bit unavailable. Or maybe maybe they have a primary partner and they can only give you limited time. Sometimes those people who are fine with, they're secure when it comes to your existing partner, but if you start dating somebody new, they become anxious about that. So it's quite complex, and it certainly requires the ability to talk openly about it, to recognize your own patterns, and then to know that there are things you can do about it that isn't just expecting your partner to just offer you safety, whatever you need, but like to recognize they have their own needs and they have their own patterns as well. So when it comes to how do we process and manage jealous feelings and emotions? So the first thing in terms of what you can do about it is identify it, is listen to what your body is telling you, listen to what your nervous system is telling you, live the experience, process it, name it, and then ask this question: where does it come from? What is it that I really need, right? If my partner is out on a date and I'm feeling very anxious and jealous, okay, what is it about? What is my fear? Where does it come from? So all of those questions are important. And then can we have a conversation? Maybe I can't have it with my partner because I get triggered, but I can have it with a friend or with a therapist. So the first thing you would want to do is learn how to regulate your nervous system in the moment. So calm yourself down. And that can be breath work. It can be physical activity of some sort, again, consciously bringing down the intensity of the feelings in the body, of the sensations. So it's essentially reminding yourself that you're not really in danger. Only after that, you can start thinking and unpacking what is the message in the jealousy? What is it trying to tell me? And the healthy way is to say, okay, this is happening. I understand where it comes from. I understand my partner did nothing wrong because we have agreements and they follow the agreements. I'm feeling this way and I'm going to explore where that comes from. Maybe I can have a conversation with my partner when I'm regulated. What you don't want to do is force a discussion about what's going on when you're really activated and all you need it for is for the feeling to stop. Because the easiest thing to say is like, don't go on a date or don't do this thing and then I'll feel better. But you're not going to really feel better because you know your partner wants to do that. And eventually you also want that to happen because you're in an open or polyamorous relationship. So avoiding it won't let you get through the experience. And sometimes what's needed is to, again, self-regulate or to be with somebody who helps you, a friend, for example, and then wait for this to pass. And then maybe your partner goes away, comes back, you reconnect, and you can see that actually you didn't lose them. They did go on a date and then they came back. So that can help you learn a new pattern of allowing and understanding that your partner can leave and come back. And it's not that they're leaving and that's it. And it's really just by repeating those patterns that your nervous system will get used to the new normal. If you're personally struggling or want to get some one-to-one support and advice, you're welcome to schedule a free consultation with me that lasts 20 minutes. And you can find a link to it in my bio.